Hello and welcome to Men in Progress, a podcast of the United Methodist Men of Trietsch. And it's part of the Life+God podcast series from Trietsch Memorial United Methodist Church here in Flower Mound, Texas. So I'm your host, Dave Casey, longtime member of the men's group here at Trietsch, and really just one of the many men, or knuckleheads, I guess, that are trying to live out our faith and grow in our relationship with Jesus Christ. So for centuries, Christians have been carefully instructed when and where and how we're supposed to worship. And these instructions started in the Bible, but since then, every denomination seems to have different rules and regulations on how to do that, and including some we really don't agree with. If you look at Matthew 18:20, Jesus said, "Where two or more are gathered in my name, there I will be also." He doesn't say this has to be in a building or in a chapel, cathedral, or any of those kind of places. So why can't it be on a boat? Or on the golf course, or even on a Peloton? So to help me answer that question, I'm joined by three of my brothers from Trietsch, and this is very scary given these three, but it's Kevin Cummings, Chuck Mosely, and Jody Turnbow. Well, guys, welcome to Men in Progress.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
Yeah,
thanks, Dave.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Anyway, So we have I know we have a golfer represented, and I know we have a mountain biker represented, and I don't know what Kevin does for exercise, but
Grocery store.
Oh, that's a great place to preach.
He's quite the golfer too.
Yeah, is he good?
Don't let him undersell you.
Okay. He looks like a golfer, So anyway, I've got a first question right here. So, do you guys feel any way restricted about where you can worship? So I'm going to start with Jody.
Thank you, Dave. No, I don't actually, and I have, whether when I'm riding on the road, I typically don't listen to anything. I really want to hear the sounds of the crazy people driving beside me, just in case they have a different opinion.
The screeching brakes and
screeching brakes and hey, you get off the street, those type things. However, when I'm in a gym, either on a bike, you don't have to be on a Peloton or on a treadmill. I routinely do listen podcast. And
good. You'll want to tee this one up then, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I do. Yeah. I do. These have got me through some nice runs. So, and you can tee it up and you can do your devotional while you're on it. I've done it several times, going through my devotional as I'm running in place or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, I find it absolutely a good use of your time. As opposed to listening to your same playlist that you've listened to 200 times, is listening to something that's going to help you. Sometimes it's just a podcast on making yourself better from one of the more spiritual, not some of the other ones.
So like Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah, I've never listened to him. Actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't want to get you started.
I'm good.
This is a church sponsored podcast we're on here, so. So, Chuck, it's a little different on a golf course because you're generally in a company of others, right?
Well, that's true. You have a unique opportunity to worship or to bring up the topic of God and Jesus, because you have people away from pretty much all distractions for 4 to 5 to 6 hours. And interestingly enough, you will hear God's name yelled several times while you're out there. I'm not sure it's always in the right light, but you do hear that. But it's a time. We're always told pray without ceasing. When you're playing golf, sometimes there's a moment you have. Golf courses typically tend to be beautifully manicured places. There's a lot to appreciate, maybe a sun rising or a sun setting, just beauty all around you, and it's a time when you can really thank God. I've done it many times standing on a putting green.
Yeah, that's and not just in supplication that, hey, please, this
Thanks
one
for not
has
letting
to
me
drop.
3-putt.
Yes.
Again.
Well, the other thing I'm jealous of you about being a non-golfer, so I can probably count on 2 hands the number of rounds of golf I've done in my entire life. So if you notice when we have the Honey Dudes tournament, I'm the hamburger guy. I'm nowhere near the golf clubs or anything like that.
That's an important guy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, but it's interesting because one of the things about golf, it's not only kind of universal. Every socioeconomic, level and everywhere in the world. I mean, literally, you can play golf on every continent, I think, even, I think, including Antarctica. So it's one of those things that if you talk about an opportunity to reach out and get the message out, you've got an opportunity with golf, no matter where you go.
Sometimes people don't think about the sport itself. It's the only sport you'll imagine where players call penalties on themselves. Yeah. So it's largely about integrity, and honesty, and you're not playing each other nearly as much as you are the golf course. So it's a battle within yourself, and that might seem you might see some parallels to that in Christianity.
Sure,
right?
Sure. So Kevin, I got a little different question for you. So,
well, of course, I've been sitting here preparing for that other question.
That's why I did this, and I purposely made you go last. So anyway, why do you think? And I've seen this firsthand, but why do you think so many people feel like they can only worship in certain places under certain rules? Worship is set aside for Sunday. Worship is in the sanctuary. That kind of thing.
Tradition. And I really think it's done a disservice to the great commandment to go and make all nations, right?
Yeah.
And so when you only limit it to a building, how am I talking to the lady, Miss Vicky, at the cheese counter at Kroger? You guys thought I was joking, but Laurie walked in there with me a while back, and after getting halfway through the store, she said, "Is there anybody in here you don't know and don't know their kids? Come on, are you running for mayor or something?"
See, I want to go shopping with you. This is going to be interesting.
Well, it's interesting because after 8-10 years, there's a lot of stuff that I've shared with people that is very personal. And a lady that got over COVID, but she still has to be on a respirator once a week. And it's like, hey, I'm praying for you.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of draws people into, you always tell me you're praying for me.
Yeah.
What's going on with you and prayer? And it gives you the opportunity to actually testify.
So tradition is not it's not holding you back. It doesn't sound like,
Not even a little.
Well, that's interesting. Either of you guys, Jody or Chuck, you have an opinion why we are tied to, coming to church and preaching, or not preaching, but worshiping here?
Yeah, I think tradition is probably the main reason, but it's that part of that. You want to be led and you want to do it right. You don't want to do it wrong. So you just feel like when you're in church and the minister is leading or the Sunday school class leading you, that's the proper place to do it. In my case, sometimes, you could get a little lazy, right? And say, okay, I'm going to go to church and let someone minister to me, as opposed to, do take it outside the church and share it with others, to your point. Mm-hmm. And I was going to mention, to your point about, you can minister anywhere. One of the other ministries I see out is in triathlons. There's a Tri for Him.
Wow!
So there's a whole group.
Unaware of that.
Yeah. So they all have. Matching uniforms that they use because you swim and bike and run in the same thing.
Yeah. So the tri suit. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a Tri for Him, and that's a form of testimony and witness, because you can walk up to those people, hey, great job, and God bless you, and it's received, and it's just an outward, without having to say anything, showing that even though it may be Sunday and I'm not at church, but I am here for Him. And I've always liked the fact that I've seen very young to very old in the same jersey, and I always admired them.
Yeah.
Don't you also think it depends on where somebody is in their path? Because when I go to church, it's to recharge my batteries for when I'm not at church. Mm-hmm. Whereas somebody that's just starting to learn about Jesus needs to be in church.
Well, and there's a lot of aspects of church. We've got, within worship, you've got music, which is an important component. And I know people that they won't miss church because for the music part. I mean, that's just their thing. And when you actually think about using the facility, and we're blessed with a nice facility at Trietsch. And a few years ago, we built our Family Life Center, and it has a basketball court, right? Mm-hmm. And it turns out the research that basically I'm sure the Methodist Church has, but anybody that builds buildings for churches knows that sports and music are the two things that draw people to a church. Now, once they get there, there's got to be a message that's that resounds with them, I think. But it's interesting that those are the the things that draw people in initially a lot of times. So I think having an active sports ministry, which we do, and then with Upward and adult sports, pickleball has turned into a religion, I think, at this point.
It's not a basketball court. It's a pickleball court now.
Yeah, it is now a pickleball court. It's been repurposed.
Changed the name over there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But to your point about where two are gathered, I am there with you. To your point about it getting recharged, I think that is an excellent place to witness and reach, is outside the church if they may be intimidated about coming in, because here I am by myself and don't know how I'm going to be received. So,
correct.
Always taking that opportunity. And to your point, sports is a good place to do it.
Well, I just think of it,
it's a common interest, right?
Inviting somebody to play pickleball, and it happens to be at our church. I mean, that's I think that's a natural type of thing. I think there's still probably a mindset with some people that I've just got to go to a church, and I think that might get in the way of their faith in some way. They're just saying, I can't. I don't really reconcile that. So, Chuck, I got a great question for you. I hopefully I have a great answer for you too. But so
can you start with the answer?
And you talked a little bit about it on the golf course, but how about on the lake? When you're on the lake, how does that?
I fished a lot when I was a kid. I've played golf more days than I would like to admit.
Well, you are in sales. That's
that's true. And I'm getting back into fishing in a pretty big way. But I find a lot of parallels in that same way, in that I'm going to go out and I'm going to spend 4 hours, let's say, just mano-y-mano with a buddy. And during that 4 hours, it's not going to all talk about fish. Okay, it's gonna devolve into certain things, but it's a great chance. And my friends know how I feel about God and that I've been saved, and we talk about this a lot. But out when you're fishing, you have nothing to distract you other than the obvious. Yeah. Same way with golf, and again, it's another time to appreciate your health, to appreciate the beauty around you, and usually anyone you're with, unless they're just having a really bad day, will just be in agreement with you. You find back to the sports thing, you find a connection with people. If you see a guy that gets up in front of United Methodist men and talks and does a devotional, some men have an opinion of that guy. But then when they go out and connect with him on a golf course or on a boat or some in some sport, it's a different level of connection. And they say, hey, you know what? It's okay to get up in front of guys and cry and give a devotional. It's okay to do that.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So, Jody, do you think there's are there advantages in worshiping in what we'll call unconventional way? You mentioned kind of that solitude when you're on the bike, or as opposed, I guess, to going to corporate worship where we worship on Sunday morning.
Oh, I definitely think there is. As you mentioned, mountain biking is one of the things I like to do, and it's a communion. It's, to your point, it's beautiful out there. Mm-hmm. You're out. I absolutely don't wear headphones or anything like that when I'm out. I want to hear what's going on around me as far as just the sound of the forest. Same thing when we're walking. North Shore, if no one's been up here at Grapevine, is fantastic. If you really want to Chuck's point, if you want to walk and have a conversation, there's several places where you can sit. You overlook the lake. Yeah. And if you don't think God is great, there's just no other place. It's just like a chill that runs down you almost, that you just feel that energy from it.
Yeah. No, that's because it's 105 everywhere else, but 95 there by the lake.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. There is a cool breeze coming in. So I do think, just like the apostles were, chased kind of out of Jerusalem and spread the word in Acts. I think worship is the same way for us. Mm-hmm. We're not chased out of our church, obviously, but we are meant to take it with us out. And I feel more comfortable personally if I'm connecting on something that I enjoy, that's relatively good for you, right?
Sure.
Working out, golfing, or fishing, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And then sharing that with my testimony, Mountain biking has gotten me through some tough times.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've had to work some stuff out on a bike, and I needed to.
Yeah, Boy, that's great. What an advantage, to have that. So Kevin, I'll kind of flip this around on you and just say, do you think there are some disadvantages maybe of unconventional worship?
No.
You don't see any disadvantages?
I really don't, because if we're going to try to put God in a box, well, that worked really well at the C Church for a long time, and then you start having Protestants that go, no, our God's a little different than yours. We can fit him in this box. Well, if you're looking for a perfect church, you're never going to find one.
Right.
And so I don't think the church is the only place.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I can see that. The thing that I think about is there's something to do with corporate, worship. I think that's in a Methodist church, we're intentionally a connectional church. So we try to connect people at a lot of different levels. I think some of it is interests. So again, the sports ministry or something like that. There's a small group, and many churches have a small group kind of feel, just because a church can get really big and really impersonal, and to get to where you could go on Sunday morning and only recognize a handful of people. So I think that's what Sunday school is about. That's what small groups, life groups at our church is an example. So and those aren't necessarily conventional. I think that's the difference. I think that there's been over the years. I think the Christian church started out meeting in homes way the first century,
right.
And then we kind of grew into cathedrals, and now we're kind of getting back to homes, which is, I think, a good trajectory, from what I've seen. What I've seen. So, and you guys come to church. I've seen you here at church, so I do know you do show up on Sundays. Well, some of us do, but
I didn't know you were watching.
Yeah, I've got a little
rollback.
I got a little. Exactly. I got a little clicker.
Talk to you, Dave. I'm here.
It's been 2 months. I haven't seen Turnbow. I wonder what the heck he's doing on Sunday mornings, But presently, we're really living in, we can see this. We're living in a time when our church membership and attendance is down. And, a lot of that was COVID. A lot of people, started worshiping online and just never went back to coming back to church. But just overall, I think all mainline churches are seeing a decline in membership. And over time, we're in the Bible Belt, so I think we saw it kind of last. I grew up in the Northeast, and in many churches in the Northeast have shrunk every year, where we were growing, here at Trietsch. And I think we've kind of peaked, we've leveled off, and now I think we're shrinking a bit, when you look at it. It doesn't mean the people that are still coming are not any less dedicated, but I mean, it's just and I don't know, what do you think, Chuck? Do you think that might be people are finding other ways to worship?
I do. I think, and I don't believe I'm alone in this thought, that too many people, or a lot of people, it's not my job to say how many, a lot of people have always felt they come to church and the pastor, he's the church, so lay it off on Daniel, okay? And that's not fair to Daniel. That's not fair to any pastor. Yes, he's our leader. Yes, he's going to deliver a great message and does an excellent job at that. However, that's not the church. Yeah. The church is the connections made and the people and the strength of all of that and where that occurs. And you guys, my Emmaus reunion group is very important to me. Any small group. Shout out to my WNBSers, Wednesday night Bible study group. They're a great part of my faith journey, and I think that is we were on to that. Daniel's leadership in the Methodist Church was on to the small group revival, and I think it was working and is working well. But we're going to have COVID. Has changed the world. It's changed the business world immensely. It's changed the way we all worship, and we're going to have to remember what makes a church, and we're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
These are there's no quitting here. We've got to just figure it out.
Yep.
And there's disagreements on what to do and how to do it, and there always will be, and that's okay. That's constructive as long as people hash it out. But if we worshipped on a golf course, let me flip this for a moment. You guys have all been in the retreats we've gone to. The retreats changed my life.
Great.
So being out, more so even than Emmaus, being out on the wild, just at a retreat with a bunch of guys that you hear things you'll not hear anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, you certainly get to know people on a different level.
Yes.
And that's really part of the next question that I have. And Kevin, I'll ask you on this, but you see people on Sunday morning, hi, how are you? How things going? And you may know their wife and kids and so on, but it's kind of superficial in a lot of ways with some people, but there are groups within groups. So I think of Honey Dudes is a great example that Kevin was the founder of, the father of Honey Dudes, however you want to put that. I'll put a shameless plug in for Honey Dudes. We should do a whole podcast on Honey Dudes as far as I'm concerned. So, but that was an opportunity really for men to work together, and I think intentionally on your part, a lot of times men that don't really know each other well. And you would kind of say, oh, well, this guy, he needs to know Casey, so I'll put them on, go fix this leaky toilet or whatever. That's a form of evangelism. I guess it's pretty wild.
That's that pray constantly, sometimes use words. Well, that's a very powerful prayer for the lady that we're working for.
Sure.
But the side prayers are the ones that caught me by surprise. Okay, what you're talking about, relationship with other men that grow strong, and they, hey, give us something. We need to go. I haven't seen Dave in a while. I got to go do another Honey Dudes.
Yeah.
And that's their excuse, right? Just like when we started taking the kids with us and we started teaching our sons how to be better husbands later in life. Those were the things that I picked up afterwards. So, I can go off on Honey Dudes, so I'm going to try to tap the brakes. But yes, anytime you have an opportunity to put people to where they spend time together doing something that they like or enjoy even, did a couple Honey Dude things we really did not enjoy or like. But you know what? We went and had a cold beer or a cold Coca-Cola afterwards and got to laughing, and the bartender and all the regulars looked over at us and they all start going, what's Honey Dudes?
Yeah, what are you guys doing with those shirts on?
It is really funny.
So I'm remiss because for our listeners, I'll let people know a little bit about this. But this is a ministry that's been going on for how many years now? A dozen, at least. And really, I think it started when we had a significant number of guys that were deployed in the military, and then there's always older ladies that may live alone and have just struggles or needs in terms of just home maintenance, and just basic stuff. And Kevin had the vision to say, hey, why can't we put together a group of guys to address that? And so we send them out. It's like Noah and the Ark, 2 by 2, and you send out and you go out and do minor repairs, a little yard maintenance, a little plumbing. We don't put additions on homes, although we've been asked to do that. I think so. But it's one of those things that it's just a needed ministry, and it was one of those things. Well, why has this never been done before? But and it's grown, it's blown up. I mean, it's much larger than. How
many times in the Bible does Jesus mention the orphans and the widows?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
James 1:27, baby.
See, there you go. Ask the man that knows. So let me ask you this, and you guys touched on this a little bit, but I'll ask you, Jody. When you're with a group of guys that you may know from church, but you're in a non-traditional setting. I mean, you're watching a ball game, you're doing something together. Do you ever feel God's presence in that kind of scenario?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I would say that, just to take that to another place, you guys have seen, T. Good spoke at one of our Methodist men's, and he and I work together. When he and I are together in a room with people, and we talk, and people see that, we share a common bond other than the fact that we work at the same business. He and I are both Christians, and we're very comfortable about talking about it, and we may not be directly ministering to someone or thing like that, but, we're talking about how our lives are more complete, with our spirituality.
Sure.
There's going to be another gentleman from my work that's going to speak at another one of our meetings, and he, too, is a guy that we share our faith with. So,
wow.
Yeah, I've been in those dynamics. Not at a sporting event, although I have, but I can better relate to work that I've been in the dynamic with other men who I know are spiritually active, and it just pours out of them, and I pick up a little bit, and other people do, and then you take that opportunity to, I would say, fold it into work to a point where it's not in your face and it's not uncomfortable, but it's like, hey, these guys are pretty nice, and they get along pretty well, and there's something going on, and they share a faith, and it's a bond, because all of us don't work out together. We all don't do same interests, but we do have that interest, and we build off that. So that would be my experience with that, I think. Yeah. And I'm lucky enough to have it quite often.
And you're lucky to have it at work, because there's some people that work in organizations where that's just verboten. I mean, you just can't do that sort of thing. So, what a great opportunity. So I got a final question. We'll go around the horn on this one, and this is if you think about this, I'll get back to Jody last since he just spoke, but I'll start with Chuck. Can you think of a specific God moment when you were actually either on the golf course, in the boat, somewhere that just struck you and just said, "Wow, this hit me"?
Well, I can think of many on the golf course, and I can think of quite a few fishing. I'm not like these two young dudes here. When I get together with some of my buddies, I've played golf with these guys since I was 9 years old, literally. And so we thank God for allowing us to get through another 18 holes, because it's a health thing.
All the knees and hips are working.
Yes, but probably the most striking one to me, and it is business related, unfortunately, but this is a guys group, right? Guys podcast. It was in a bar. Okay,
I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I tell you,
I've been there before. It wasn't my first time, but we were hunched over the bar, and this was I work for a company based in London, and you described them head on. It's not a topic that comes up ever for any reason. But the guy said to me, this is a good friend of mine. He was needing to unload. He needed to unload. You could tell he had a heavy weight on his shoulders. But he asked me, he said, "You're a Christian, aren't you?" And that was probably, excuse me, that was probably the biggest compliment anyone ever gave to me.
Yeah, that's great. Wow,
that's fantastic.
Wow.
And then we had the conversation, and that devolved into. It was very interesting, but he needed a Christian to talk to.
You bet. And you were there, and that's perfect.
If I could dovetail off that, our company's big in all the states and everything else. We're not international or anything, but it's happened more than once where people come into Texas, and I don't know if it's just because it's Texas or whatever, but they've remarked, you Southerners, as they say, you're so much more comfortable talking about your faith and going to church than what I'm used to hearing.
Yeah, that's the Bible Belt.
I really don't know it any different, right? I mean, I definitely don't want to portray that I've always talked about church and I'm going to church and I'm leading a Bible study or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying.
But walk in the office holding a cross out in front of you, and,
sprinkling holy water.
Sprinkling holy water. But I do think in the South it is a little bit different, to your point. And the office I'm in, again, there are people who don't mind sharing their faith. Again, not standing up in the middle of the break room delivering a sermon, but just in the subtle niceties of being a human.
Or as Chuck alluded to, just somebody
one-on-one.
Somebody knows if they have a need, they'll know there's somebody they can go to.
I've definitely had the bar story as well. I mean, I've definitely after an arrow said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?"
I felt like I helped this individual.
At both of those bars, I was taking roll.
Oh, is that right?
I can vouch they were there.
This was in London. You could have been there.
Hey, real quick, I'm going to dovetail on it also. Our company motto or statement starts with Reader Distributors is a Christian-based, family-owned company.
Cool.
And I get to wear it on my sleeve.
Yeah, that's neat.
And it really changes. Gary Reader does Bible studies once a month, except the summertime, in the break room.
Wow.
Okay.
That's neat. Interstate Batteries like that.
It's fantastic.
It's been a large organization that's kind of followed that same mode. Now, do you have the guys with the company trucks? I mean, do they have you got to be careful how you drive because it says that as the tagline?
Yeah, they all know if they drive a company truck, they're in a different set of rules than all the rest of us that drive our personal vehicles.
Something to be said for having a personal vehicle.
Yes, there is. So I wanted to comment on the knowing a God moment.
Yeah,
and it's just as brightest day. So for about this was 20-something years ago, for it seemed like 3 months, every day I'm saying, God, I know you can do this. Just talk to me once. Just once. Come on. You can do it. Right? You want to know what kind of, you want to know what kind of sense of humor God has?
Bold.
We support a mission like Uganda Shoe Tree, and Laurie was inside and she's praying, God, if you want me to give to Uganda Shoe Tree, you're going to have to give me some kind of a message. And when I walk into my house, I walk over and give my wife a kiss and say, how are you doing? How was your day? Something like that. I walked into the house and I said, hey, you going to give to Uganda Shoe Tree or not? And she goes, I can't believe you just said that.
I was looking for a sign.
I was looking for a sign. And then I'm sitting there going, oh, you'll talk through me, but you won't talk to me. What a great sense of humor.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great one to close on. It's incredible.
Well, I thought you were going to all get to answer that question.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right, because we
you started.
You were last. Yeah, that's right.
I'm last.
You dovetailed in there, but that's all right. You get your moment in the sun here.
So and I would say that the moments I have aren't like those big moments where clouds are parting and sun's shining on you. I mean, this morning I will share that on a ride I saw a coyote. I almost got hit by a deer, then go around the corner and see a little armadillo going across.
Wow.
And my thought was, oh my gosh, thank you, God.
You're in a Disney movie.
Yeah. Well, the coyote wasn't chasing the deer in this one. And the deer didn't die either. No one died, so it really wasn't a Disney movie. Yeah. But just those moments right there, I think, to your point about this podcast and what we're talking about, if you're in that mindset, you're allowing yourself.
Yeah, you're open to it. Yeah,
to be open to just the glory.
Yep.
The glory will shine on you, and it won't be, like I said, that big moment or anything. But sometimes it is. But a lot of times it's all around you all the time. It's just up to us to recognize. And the more that I feel like I recognize and acknowledge, the more it happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Sure. Well, I think we answered the question, and that you don't have to. You don't have to worship in a church. You don't have to worship in a pew. It's the opportunities are endless out there, and I think the opportunities are not just for us, but it's for others that we encounter as well. So I think, and of course, you guys epitomize that you guys are always looking for ways to help other people with no expectation of return on your part. So there you have it, Men in Progress. We hope you were blessed in some way of our discussion, and will join us again for our next one. I really want to thank my brothers from Trietsch, Chuck Mosely, Jody Turnbow, and Kevin Cummings for joining me, and to the church production team that allows us to put this on. So as it says in Proverbs, as iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. That's really the whole purpose behind this podcast, is to really just get a bunch of knuckleheads together. And and so we can talk to each other, support each other. Yeah, check. It's all around the table here. And we're really just trying to become better fathers, better husbands, better leaders, and better men. So I'm Dave Pacey, and we'll see you next time.
This episode of the Men in Progress podcast is sponsored by Trietsch Memorial United Methodist Church, where our mission is to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. If you're in or near Flower Mound, Texas on any Sunday morning, we would love to welcome you to any of the Trietsch services. Or you can follow our services anytime on our Facebook page or at tmumc.org.